Hey guys, welcome to I just want to give you a little preview of what's coming up in this episode for Third Love. We've shared 4 ideas. There's lots and lots of each episode is completely different. In this episode, you'll learn something about very powerful idea of taking something that people write in reviews, which is very, kind of buried, and bringing it to the most hot area on the product page, which is the product images. And so Lorenzo shares a really interesting idea for how to take the anxieties and solutions from the reviews that people are actually talking about and incorporating that as part of your product images. I thought it was a great idea. And then I'm going to share an idea for how to actually, when the person is selecting their sizing, to surface for them reviews of people that had that same size. So looking forward to sharing that with you. Stay till the end of the episode and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Hi guys, welcome back to yet another episode. And in this episode, we are going to talk about a really popular DTC brand. In fact, every brand that we've reviewed is a big, interesting DTC brand. Our objective is to bring as much diversity in episodes as we can, because we want to show you guys that the same principles that applied for, let's say, beard brand can also apply for a brand that's a bra brand as well. So give you a little kind of background about the business. This is a company called Third Love. Lorenzo, I believe they were doing in 2020 or 21, they were doing they raised $68 million, correct?
Yeah, so they raised $68 million and their revenue in 2019 was $100 million. And they have pretty baller investors as well. Actually the ex-wife of Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, and also the CEO of YouTube, among other people.
And what's that's exactly right. And when they originally started, they actually, I believe this product, the 24/7 Classic T-shirt bra, was their blockbuster product release. So today they have expanded, they have, as with any brand, as you grow in size, Spanx also started as with one product, and then as they grew, they expanded their product line. Obviously, because you have a big audience, they have different needs, and you want to monetize those needs. But I still believe that this is still probably their best-selling product. And you can see from the reviews that they have, 49,000 reviews, and we've obviously looked at the other pages as well. This is the most reviews of everything that they have. So what I want to do first is just quickly walk through the layout of the page. This is a mobile page. Most people are seeing it on their mobile devices. First thing you'll notice is that they have a hello bar on top where they are kind of rotating a couple of banners or a couple of promos. And then they mention the name of the product, which is, again, a lot of what we're going to show you is pretty standard practice. Then they show the star rating and the review count, again, as you would expect. The first thing that you notice, which is slightly different, is that they don't actually have an arrow here pointing towards the other alternate images. But what they've done, which I think is also an interesting strategy, is that they've partially shown that next image, which is a cue to the buyer that there is more content, which kind of nudges them to click on the swipe button. And then, of course, if you swipe it, you can see those alternate images. They've got some high quality images. They've got lots of images, which I think is really good because it shows a lot of variety for the different angles. And it's almost like for a woman, it's almost like standing in front of a mirror in a store, and you want to recreate that experience because they're shopping online. And for what they've done, which I also think is interesting, is that they have these the bra for each of the colors that they carry. So if you come to this color, then if you scroll, you actually see the model wearing that specific color, which I think is a great idea because it really creates an immersive experience for the shopper. Also, what I've noticed is that, for just a side note, but for this specific color, they actually show it in 2 sizes, 34C and 36E. So they've got 2 different models showing 2 different sizes, which I think is a genius idea, because if I'm buying a certain size, I have a completely different psychological makeup versus someone who's buying a different size. They haven't done.
I interrupt you because one interesting thing that came up from the reviews mining was, I like that the models don't look like top models, but they look like me.
That's great.
So
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting insight.
Exactly right. Now they've done this for this specific color, which makes me kind of speculate. One of the things that we're always doing as CROs is we want to reverse engineer decision making. As of course we do reverse engineering of the buyer, but we also do reverse engineering for the client. So one of the things that I can speculate here is that probably this color is one of their popular selling colors, which is why they've gone through the extra effort of doing two short photo shoots for two different sizes. They have a standard, brand size, cup size. There's a sizing chart over here. And I think one thing to keep in mind is that sometimes because we are looking at the preview and thing, it might not render exactly how it would on a phone, but it's a close approximation. But I think Lorenzo might have some comments about this as well.
Yeah.
But they do have a size chart, and we'll cover that more in the episode. And then, of course, they have the price point. And then they have the easy pay option, buy now, pay later option. They've grayed out the select size because they want you to make the selection of the size first, which this is important detail, which means that anybody who's kind of like interacting with this part would have selected their size. And this will come into play when I talk about my concepts. There's this perfect fit promise where they talk about the fact that if you don't love it, you can send it back in 60 days. It's prominent. It's fairly prominent. I would wonder if it should be made even more prominent, because I do think for a first-time buyer, it is a fit, especially for women, is a huge concern, especially for women that are moving from another brand to this brand. It's a bigger concern. I would think about how to make this even more prominent. But again, we're not discussing solutions right now. We're just talking about the layout of the page. Then they have a section over here that talks about what makes it special. It's basically like the highlight reel, I guess, for someone who's a skimmer to see like, okay, what are the key things that's special about this bra? And then they have a description, very short, to the point description. And then if you click on read more, they show the attributes in terms of the sizes available. I would argue that this font size is unnecessarily small. I don't know what the benefit is. I mean, because it's already hidden behind a read more. So you're not saving real estate. But anyway, that was one observation. Then they have frequently bought together, as any good brand would do. They want to cross-sell and upsell. And then here they have a call to action for a quiz so that you can find the exact right size bra. More social proof over here, which I think is, of course, a great idea. There's lots of photos over here of women of all shapes and sizes because they want to connect with their audience. And then they have, this is where they show the 49,000 reviews, and there is an option to write a review, and there's an option to ask a question. I actually think that asking a question is super important. And then there's an option here to search reviews. Again, this is just a widget. It's not something that they've custom built for themselves, but this is standard. And then there's a filter option here as well, which allows you to actually further filter reviews based on star ratings. Someone might be saying, let me see some reviews of people that have 1 star. And then also by size, which I thought was a very interesting idea.
Yeah.
So that is the layout of the page. Lorenzo, I think now you can share your screen.
Yeah, if you stop sharing. Okay, fantastic. All right. I'll go first then.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the first idea I have, which is around the product images. So if we look at the product gallery, they have these little dots to basically like communicate to the user that there's more images. Obviously, there's this section as well that it's kind of like a little bit of a cue that tells that. But I actually would add an arrow just like on both sides, on the right, on the left, just to make it super visually clear that they can scroll. One thing that I would be super curious about is if these guys had heat map tool implemented on the site. I would actually want to look at it, because my hypothesis, and again, it's totally a speculation, is that people would click on it because they might want to like zoom in into like every single part of the product, maybe understand more about the material since it's in contact with the skin and so on. Then one thing that I also noticed is that they have a lot of images for obviously different colors. but they're not really tracking the clicks on the different images. And I'm a huge fan of understanding the behavior of that. So I would definitely add that, Google Events to track the different clicks. Now let's go into my reviews mining, because there's a few insights that I think are interesting that basically would allow me to give some ideas around the product images. So in this section, I called it benefits, and I basically grouped up the list of all the different advantages, benefits that people mentioned in the reviews that I analyzed, that they received that they got from the product. And as you can see, I kind of like put them on based on, like, I filtered them I sorted them based on the top percentages and so on. So I want to kind of like mention a few of them because I thought it would be interesting to kind of like make people understand. So the first one that I want to highlight is it's invisible under top/t-shirt top tank. So the fact that you don't really see that the girl has as a bra under it. The second one is basically it says the nipples don't really show. Obviously this one was quite interesting because there's all, the whole like social aspect to it, the fact that they don't want to show them. Then it's the next one is my breast doesn't pop up when I bend over, which I also thought it was very interesting. Again, it's also like kind of like a social aspect to it. And then finally, the last one is no spillage, which I also thought it was quite interesting. So for that reason, considering like these 3, 4, I consider these more like context-driven sort of scenarios. So for that reason, what I would do is, if we go back to this section, what I would do is I would add here like a series of tab, maybe like 3 different tabs. One tab could be called product image. The second one could be like model images, and the third one, it could be called like I came up with the name context. I'm sure there's a better name. But when they click on context, they see the images of all the different scenarios that I just highlighted. So for example, how the t-shirt, how the t-shirt looks like, and the fact that there's no spillage with that bra on, how the fact that the breast doesn't pop out when the person bends over, and then finally the fact that when you have that bra on, there's no nipple that is being shown. Another interesting thing that I think could be interesting to use as product image / video. I think also a video could be interesting. Rishi, do you remember the famous Apple advertisement where they had I'm a Mac versus I'm a PC? Do you remember that one?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I read a very interesting insight in reviews mining of a girl that was saying, well, before using Third Love, I was used to drive home, and when I was already in the car, almost like pulling up in the garage, I would take off my bra completely. Now that I found Third Love, I completely forget to take off my bra before going to sleep. So I wonder if there is a sort of like image or kind of like GIF or video that we can show to kind of like demonstrate in a visual way the before and after of the product. The other quick one I had is if we go in the anxiety section, there's one called underwires are torture. Again, in this section, basically I highlighted all the kind of like the typical situations where the person was like, oh, I love the bra that I bought. At the beginning, I was a little bit skeptical about X or Y and Z. So that's where, these kind of like insights belong to this column. And, I'm not a bra expert, but if bras have an underwire, there's like a metallic I don't know what it's made of, but there's like a wire around the bra, and sometimes that could kind of like, bother people. So what I would recommend here, for example, in this image that shows the underwire, I would add a little arrow that points out towards the underwire that says it's very comfy, even if it's an underwire. It's actually an underwire that doesn't feel like an underwire. It's more like a wire free. Obviously, this is a long copy. I would shorten it a little bit, but the point is, if the person is looking at an image and seeing the underwire there, maybe there's that kind of like anxiety objection going on. So using an arrow with copy that completely solve that objection for the person could be a way to make it more appealing, basically.
That's really good. Do you mind if I just add a little more context to some of the things you said? Because I think so. I want to draw attention to the power of the specific choices you've made. So the first thing is that the reviews, just think about it from this perspective, the reviews are anchored to the bottom of the page, which means that it's one extreme of the page, and they matter a lot. So they're a very strong conversion catalyst. But the product images, if you look at it, I don't think there's any heat map or any user recording in the history of e-commerce where the user is not disproportionately focused on the product images. And think about it, it absolutely makes sense. What is e-commerce competing against? What's the control for e-commerce? It's a retail store. Yep. And what is the one benefit you get in a retail store? You can you can actually feel the fabric. You can lift an object. You can see from a different angle. This is why product images matter so much. In fact, it's one of the most important elements, I would say, on the page itself. And it's getting a lot of the user's attention. And what Lorenzo has done, which I think is so interesting, is that he's done using the methodology of reviews mining, he's identified the core attributes of actual buyers. And he's now resurfacing and repurposing that content in a high traffic area, right? He's taking an insight from a relatively low traffic area, but converts really well. And he's bringing it to almost like the entrance of the store, right? So imagine like the store billboard is showing women who are kind of like talking about the anxieties and the frustrations that they have. That's a great way to pull in people. So that's what he's done, which I think is super, super important. Also, just to add more context, the images that the client is using, these are beautiful images, but they do not solve the problem why women would be looking to switch their bra. And that's a very strong motivator for buyers. And so to show that is super important. And what I really like about it, most of all, is that he's letting the user, because he talked about we'll show it as tabs, he's allowing the user to self-select what they care about. So it's very easy to sell to the client as well, because the client would say like, oh, we don't want to add more images. This is making it too busy. You're not adding more images by default. You're actually allowing the user to self-select. And this actually helps the CRO reinforce the argument because,
you're putting the user in the driving seat, right?
Correct.
And you let the user use the steering wheel towards the direction that the user wants.
Yeah, my only one suggestion, and this is something that we always do when we brainstorm on ideas, is like we're always thinking of further improvements. His idea was to use the word context, and of course he said that it's still work in progress. I would call it something like see why they love us or something like that. But this is great. So I just wanted to add that commentary. Good job.
Thanks. Do you want to talk about yours?
Yeah. So if you just scroll down on my concept a little bit. So for me, again, I always kind of zero in on the question of price, and I don't know the price of bras, and maybe $68 is in the range of bras, or maybe it's expensive, not sure, but that doesn't really matter, because for the buyer, price is always a point of anxiety. It is always a challenge, because the question that the is going through the consumer's mind is this: I have a bra that is uncomfortable and I want to buy a new bra. Do I want to spend $68 on a new bra? That's the question that's the movie that's playing in the mind, right? So as a marketer, I need to anticipate what that movie is and inject my message right there. So Lorenzo, if you can just maybe zoom this image a little bit, just so people can see what the copy says. There we go. Yeah. So it basically says what makes us different. And it's a very quick put together crude design concept. Actually, controversially, sometimes poorly designed CTAs actually get more attention because they're not beautiful. Sometimes when it's too beautiful, it kind of just blends into the background. But the basic idea here is that I've created a speech bubble. So it kind of looks like, like a comic strip when you have the person talking, like it's kind of like a speech bubble. And the price point, it's almost like the $68 is actually having a conversation with the reader, right? So it's saying what makes us different. Of course, that's not the key point here. You can design it any way you want, but the goal is to stand out and to really get people to want to click on it. And who's going to click on this? The people that have some sensitivity around the price point. People that are looking at this price point and saying, I've been buying bras for $100 and I just don't, I'm insensitive to price. They would not pay attention to this. People, 85% of what's on a page, they ignore. Sometimes clients are very concerned about adding too much to a page, and that is a very true concern. But remember, most of what's on your page, people are not even seeing. Like, for example, in this screenshot, you see that little floating feedback button. To me, it is like really central. I can't avoid it, but I guarantee you, most average consumers don't even notice it. Because people, we just tune it out. We just focus in on what we care about. So this message will only be visible essentially to people that care about it. But here's the thing, right? If I'm a marketer and someone has come to my page and their narrative, the movie playing in their mind is, do I really want to spend $68? $68 is a lot of money. I don't know if this is good quality. My God, this is my hot prospect because I have a story for them. And if I don't know who these people are, and if I don't give them a mechanism, then I can't show them that story. So I've not written the copy for it, but the idea is when you click on it, we'll give a good detailed explanation for what makes our price different and why the quality is impeccable, et cetera, et cetera. So that was my first idea.
Yeah, one thing that I thought, as soon as I saw the copy of the bubble here, I was like, imagine if you actually tell him that it's expensive. Something like, instead of saying what makes us different, you could be like, why this price? Or, why such a high price?
That's right.
So now, and this could be like totally like variation one, you have what makes us different, and variation two could be like, why such a high price, right? And again, we are in business of experimenting. I'm not suggesting that using the copy, why so expensive, is going to do better. But what I want to do is I want to draw the attention to the user even further, because I think that maybe that sort of copy could be even stronger from like a attention grabber, that what makes us different. And again, I would want to test it to the two things.
That's absolutely correct. Everything that we are showing in this show, please be warned. You are looking at our workshop. This is not our retail store. So what Lorenzo and I sell for $20,000 is a very different product than what you're looking at. But the idea here is to show you our thinking process and for you to kind of say, okay, how would I have done it differently? And by the way, that actually is a great point for me to say, write a comment. Tell us how you would have done it differently. We would love to hear. I think Lorenzo's idea is better than my idea. This is the nature of the show. No, it's a great idea. I really love that emphasis, because the user is saying this is expensive, especially if a user is saying this is expensive. This is a really important question. But since I'm a copywriter, I have two important qualities. I'm a copywriter, but I'm also the world's laziest person. So I want to actually give you guys a little trick on how I would actually write content for this. One of my hacks is I actually make all my clients do all the hard work. And then I take all the credit for if the concept wins. Here's what I do. Instead of writing copy for this, I'm talking about the copy for the pop-up. So instead of writing copy for it, you know what I do? I email my client and I said, hey, Stephanie, you meet a customer and that customer comes to you and say, a potential buyer comes to you and says, I really love your bra. I think you guys are like, I really hate my bra and I really love your bra. And I absolutely want to switch brands. I'm looking at 4 or 5 other brands right now, but I don't know, $68. I mean, that kind of sounds expensive. And I say, Stephanie, what would you tell this person? And then I get a response from the client. I then wordsmith it, and that's my pop-up content. And there are 2 advantages to this. The first advantage is that they've done the work for me, and but the second advantage is that it is their concept. So there is less resistance from there. They're not going to look at that and say, oh, no, this explanation doesn't work, because I got it from you. So anyway, it's a side comment, but I wanted to mention this because I think people should know these tricks.
And oftentimes the founder is also like the best salesperson in the company, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. All right. So that's back to you, my friend.
Yeah. So my second idea is around sizing, which of course is I would say one of the elephants in the room for this page. So let's go into the reviews mining. Let's go back to the benefits tab, and I want to talk about this section, this subtopic called the quiz help me find the right size. So this is, again, people that organically, without the brand asking them, but organically said that they've gone through the quiz. And quick reminder what the quiz is. If I go to, I forgot.
It's lower on the page as well, but it's on top as well. But you can find the one lower.
Yeah, so there's the quiz here where they can click through it, and they after let me show people how it looks like. So they have the start a quiz, and then it's gonna start asking like a bunch of questions. I had gone through it already, so this is like the last step. That's why it's showing this one. But the other thing that I want to mention, let's go back up here. Yeah, the other thing I want to mention is that if we go in the anxiety section, people said 2 things. I'm skeptical about the quiz, and I'm not sure about the size. So first of all, one thing that I noticed from the top is that they're actually trying to push people to use the quiz to find the size, which makes sense. And in order to do that, they're actually pushing people through like an incentive. They basically give away 10% off if you find your size through the quiz, which I thought it was very interesting, because maybe like they saw that if they look at the conversion rate of the people that go through the quiz is higher than those that don't. So now they want to shift behavior. They're pulling that lever, and they're making people towards a specific behavior. But what I had in mind is, instead of giving away 10% margin, which, as a company, you always want to avoid it, I would want to test different quotes incentives. So instead of using a monetary incentive, I would use some other like motivational elements to push people towards using that quiz. One could be like, our quiz precision is 99.99%, right? So that is an implied message to the user that says, for sure, you're going to get your size. Another example, which is actually a data that I found straight from Google, is that over 12 million women have gone through that quiz. And I thought it was very interesting statistics that, again, implies a strong message that, wow, it must be working very well if so many people have gone through it. And then the final kind of like a motivational angle that I thought about was, imagine if we said something like, again, this is an implied message, and it would be like 94% or whatever the high percentage we want of our customers that use the quiz have never returned a bra in the past, right? So that means that they always find it, almost always find it. And the other thing around sizing is that I wonder if we could test, let's say, I'm the user, I'm playing with like different band sizes or cap sizes. And after like one or two selections of different sizes, we could trigger kind of like, it could be like a widget that comes out and says, can't find a size. You have two options: either go through the quiz, or option two, talk to one of our size experts that will help you find the right one. The last thing I have is, you kind of mentioned that earlier, it was around the sizing. I have some hypotheses around this size chart. So what I would do is, I would actually do some user testing, with some users for this bra size chart, because I think it's got some potential usability issues. But yeah, that's all I got for my second ideas, Rishi.
Okay, so let's stick with your idea. I want to add a few more things here.
Sure.
So Lorenzo talked about when you select the band size, and then let's say if you kind of maybe switch through a few cup sizes, let's say you try, click on this and click on B, that's a signal that you might have some kind of confusion. You can show a prompt for the quiz. I love that idea. You can even actually do it based on non-interaction, right? So you can say that if someone selects the band size, but then they don't click on a cup size, like it's like a 5-second delay, that's a signal that they're probably like not even sure which one to click on. And that shows even higher anxiety. I want to actually, this is a point. So part of the purpose of the show, one of the things that we are always trying to balance is going between super tactical solutions where it's very literal and focusing on first principles. The problem is, if we only do focus on first principles, then some of the viewers might say like, well, show us a tangible example of this. And so that's why we are actually picking actual brands. But the truth is that the purpose of the show is to teach you first principles and to teach you techniques of conversion optimization, whether you're a consultant or you're an in-house team member, how to navigate that. And I want to make a really important point over here, because it relates to the concept that Lorenzo shared, which is that if you notice on this page, we actually a couple of times have talked about, this is a really important conversion element. So for example, right on the top of the page, we have the product images, and we were saying that's a very important conversion element. We talked about the quiz as being a really important conversion element. We talked about the sizing as being an important, size chart being an important conversion element. We talked about the reviews being a conversion element. This is a very, very important point I want to make here, because oftentimes brands fall into this trap where they say, we have 50 super important things, all matter. And this is completely dangerous territory to get into, because once your CEO tells you that there are 50 things that are important on this page, my hands are tied. What am I going to do? I can't remove anything. I can't de-emphasize the videos or the picture or the product images, because suddenly the CEO has told me that that's important. I can't change the sizing chart because, again, that's also important. And I think it's very important. I always force my clients to pick the most important thing. And I actually use data, like Lorenzo's a data guy. So he would actually look at the click behavior and he would say, listen, I've looked at all the click tracking and I found that in terms of conversion impact, the size chart has the biggest impact of all. It's really important for us to pick one or two things. We have to avoid the temptation of saying that there are 20 things that matter on this page. Of course, there are 20 things that matter in every scenario, but focus in on the few things that really, really, really matter and optimize the heck out of them. So the point I want to make here is that we are not saying that the sizing chart or the wizard is the most important thing. What we are saying is that if the data supports that it's the most important thing, have the courage to de-emphasize some other things to facilitate that. Because one of the biggest mistakes we make is we assume that the consumer has infinite attention. So we just keep on putting more and more crap on the page. And what we don't realize is that people are already have fragmented attention, and within first 10 seconds, they've already checked out already. So you have very few opportunities. So I just wanted to make that one point.
Yeah, I'll tell you one more thing actually related to this. Let's say that the founder says, all these 5 things are important on the website. We absolutely need to put them. Okay, let's do it. Then we'll go ahead and do it. And then what I would do as next step in the iteration is actually start removing one of those things one by one to see actually what the most important is for the user. So this is kind of like what in the industry is called not inferiority test, because basically you test with the sole purpose of learning, not like winning or like winning a increasing conversion rate, but to understand which one of these 5 elements that you have put on the website is actually important for the user.
We should pause here for a second. I know that we want to make this episode short, but I don't know what this term inferiority testing means. Can you explain a little bit about what it is and the principle?
Yes. Yeah, sure. So, no inferiority test is a test where the goal is to not reduce the conversion rate by, removing an element or, doing some experimentation. So and again, conversion rate is a generally speaking kind of like goal, right? It could be AOV, could be other kind of like goals. But if we take conversion rate as an example, is, the hypothesis could be, well, by removing the sizing in this case from the product page, we will not, conversion rate, we will not change, right? And again, maybe we want to, make the page a little bit less clutter. And so by removing that element, and then all of a sudden, if you see that conversion rate tanks, right? That means that sizing is extremely important for the user. If the conversion rate stays the same, well, it wasn't that important.
That's great. That's a great. Thank you for teaching me that term. That's awesome. Excellent.
Cool. Do you want to talk about the second one?
Yes, let's talk about the second idea, and it's
I'm
really
excited about this one. I'm excited about. For the first time, Rishi and I shared our own ideas before doing the show.
That's right. That's right. So what I noticed was, again, I just want to kind of we are always reverse engineering what might matter to the buyer. And so one of the things is that even though they have a lot of social proof of 49,000 reviews, the thing is that women want to hear from other women who share common attributes with them. So the fact that you have 49,000 reviews maybe looks good for the CEO, but it's really not very usable for the buyer. And so what I noticed was, and this is another very important part about our whole approach to CRO, is that it's not always about inventing new ideas. Most of the times it's about actually emphasizing what already exists. And so what I noticed was, Lorenzo, if you can just open the live page, I want to actually show the live page. I want to show people the actual interface. So if you scroll all the way down, by the way, I'll just give you guys a little kind of another, a little small data piece, which is that I can tell you that less than 10% of people that are on this page actually come down to the section. So we're talking about like really, really cold territory right now. And then of course, within this, they have this button called more filters, which I can guarantee you because the search reviews is so big, I guarantee you most people don't. People might actually think that the more filters is actually related to the search term, so I don't think people will notice it. When you click on it, however, the thing I should mention is that this is a beautiful interface where you can actually now find, based on your band size and even your cup size, you can actually find specific reviews that perfectly match that specific measurement. This to me is super powerful, because if the person, our hero, is a size 32 and I can show her 10 reviews of other women who are size 32, that is super persuasive. So what I did was I thought about how can I surface this content higher on the page. And so if you go back to my concept, what I did was I created conditional logic where the moment the user selects the size, which is 34, and they select the cup size, which is B12, if you can just zoom this image just a little bit, I want to show how the text, what the text says. So essentially what's happening is that once you've made the selection, I'm dynamically showing you this call to action that says, see reviews of people who bought this size. So two things are happening. First of all, it appears on the screen after you've made the selection. So it goes from being invisible to being visible, which draws your attention. But secondly, and more importantly, it perfectly connects with the psychology of your state of mind at that point in time, because I've just selected the sizes. And when you click on it, we then basically show, of course, I haven't designed that, but when you click on it, I don't think there's anything there. But when you, no. When you click on it, we basically, if you go back to the live page, I want to show you how the widget actually works. So if you go to more filters, please click on size 34. I want to show the actual example. So click on 34 and maybe let's try B1.5 if under the cup size. Yeah, let's see if this, yeah, lower, B1.5, B half, sorry. And this just, I think maybe at the bottom, I don't know where the call to action is. Maybe it's in the bottom. Is there a,
maybe I have to close it?
No, it's still 49,000.
Maybe it's not working because it's on desktop.
Could be. Okay, so on the live page, what really happens is that they are actually showing reviews. There we go.
Oh, there you go, because
there
it was too zoomed in. Yeah.
Right. So there are 2,000 women who have written a review with this exact same size. And what we are doing in our Lightbox is we are only surfacing that content. So it's not like it technically shouldn't be very complicated because it already exists. We're just surfacing it higher on the page. So that was my idea.
I love it. Yeah, this is, I mean, think about it, right? Like if you want other people to understand how other people who have been in their own situation feel and think about the product, right? Like the typical example I have is, I live in London. Whenever I go to an Italian restaurant, I never ever read reviews because the level of sophistication around Italian food that I have is very, very different than the typical like British person, right? So for me, it doesn't really make sense. It should be like Yelp or TripAdvisor should be reviews written by Italian people, right? If they had that, I would read them. But honestly, like, and that's what you're trying to do here with your idea, basically.
When I go to an Indian restaurant, the first thing I do before I walk in, I look to see how many Indians are eating there. And if that proportion is not 80%, I walk away.
There you go.
So we're constantly using these social signals, right, to navigate. Yep. And so my whole thinking is that showing people 49,000 reviews is 1/10 as effective as showing them 2,000 reviews of people that are very similar to them psychologically. And that's the whole idea. So that covers my concept. Now I think, is it back to you or are we done?
No. I think we're done with the episode. That was a good one, Rishi. I really enjoyed it.
I think this is good. I actually think that this short format is great. In fact, our comment to the listeners is write a comment to us and tell us if you think that we're experimenting with a shorter version. It's a difficult balance because we think that value is the thing we care about, but we also don't want to have you invest 1 hour of your time. So we're testing a shorter version. If there's any room for improvement with the ideas, if you have questions about the ideas, let us know as well. But we hope that you have enjoyed this episode and we look forward to talking to you again. Ciao.
Thank you for watching. Ciao.